All right, we are live, and this is the very first session of a new series I'm doing called Perimenopausal in a Pandemic. What a great time, right, to be perimenopausal. That's not enough on its own. We got to add a pandemic to it. But a lot of these topics, if you're on and you're not perimenopausal, or if you're not even a woman, that's fine. The topics, especially the topic we're covering today, is not specific to that. It's just something that can help people that are in that situation right now. But I am Amy Landolt. I'm an acupuncturist at Northshore Acupuncture Center, and I am on a mission to change the narrative about perimenopause, and especially to educate people on some of the positives of perimenopause, but also provide support like we are today for dealing with some of the symptoms that people have sometimes as they're going through this period of transformation and healing. So to that point, I have friends that are going to be joining me today through May 30th for different Facebook Lives, and we'll talk at the end about some of those that are coming up. But today I have world-renowned Julie Schiffman here with me, and we're going to be talking about how you can use tapping, the emotional freedom technique, to release anger. So let me give you a quick background on Julie. So Julie is internationally recognized as an expert at the emotional freedom technique, which a lot of people abbreviate as EFT. So she's an EFT practitioner. She's been practicing with clients for over 20 years. She was like 10 years old when she started, obviously. In the last 15 of those years were spent at Dr. Mercola's Center for Natural Health as his chief EFT practitioner. Since the inception of the Tapping World Summit in 2008, she has been a featured presenter every year, and she's counseled thousands of people, helping them break through emotional and physical barriers. Her life-changing YouTube videos have been viewed more than 4 million times. And I didn't check, I didn't go out there to see if that number should have been updated, but a lot of times, we'll just say that. So Julie, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I always love chatting with you and tapping.
So if people are joining, if you could give us some thumbs up and hearts so that we know you're there. If you have questions, you can put your questions in the comments, and I will review those and try to share those, at appropriate times during the discussion today. If you are watching this after we've already ended the Facebook Live and you have questions, you can still post those, and I'll monitor those and try to get answers to you as well. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And so today we're going to talk about anger. And before we talk about tapping and everything, I wanted to talk about anger a little bit. First of all, to say it's not a bad thing, right? Like, anger is something that just tells us that there's something that needs our attention. That's all that anger is.
Totally. And you know what I tell people all the time is that, because anger is an interesting emotion because it feels out of control for people. And so they see it as being a bad emotion. And especially like as children growing up, if you're angry and you show emotions and you don't have parents who are, if you didn't have parents who were mindful about, being aware of those emotions and knowing that they're okay and feeling comfortable with being with you when you had anger, then many kids get in trouble for being angry or for talking back or expressing it in a way or yelling or screaming or that sort of thing. And anger is not a bad emotion. It's just an emotion that might feel bad because it feels a little out of control, or you don't know what to do with it, or you're afraid that if you are angry, you will make other people angry. You will cause them to reject you, or they'll walk away from you. They'll turn around, or they'll blame you back. They'll tell you you're being irrational and that you're out of control, and that never feels good. So right. Anger is an emotion that many people are not comfortable with.
Yeah,
but
so
it's not bad.
It's great to have this discussion just to see it as in a different light, and then also get some tools of how to process it. So I like to think of anger as something that it can help you get your needs met. It can help you make change in the world, and it can help you get insight about yourself. And so one of the things I talk a lot about with my clients is, in Chinese medicine, if you don't process your emotions, if you repress them, or if you get stuck in them and just feed them with repetitive thoughts, like continue to think about it over and over, those emotions aren't flowing freely through you, and you get what we call chi stagnation. So it's a blockage in your body. And in perimenopause in particular, when you have chi stagnation, it's going to make any negative symptoms you have in perimenopause worse. It's going to make hot flushes go crazy. It's going to make everything else bad. And that's true across the board. Like if you have back pain, chi stagnation makes it worse. If you have problems sleeping, chi stagnation makes it worse. So it's important to be able to express your emotions so that you don't get chi stagnation and it doesn't cause other issues. And I know you talk a lot about if we don't express our emotions, it can impact our physical health as well.
Absolutely. So something like anger, that vibration of anger, our bodies are always listening to us. As you're talking about, you talk about the chi, which is totally understandable how that all happens. But also your cells are listening, your organs are listening, your glands are listening, all of your systems are listening to, what's going on. And so, what happens, especially with pent up anger, right? The anger that we're even not expressing, there are people that'll go around that'll be really angry and they're just spewing stuff and they're swearing, and raising their voice. Okay. So there's that kind of anger. But there's also that anger that's pent up. That is that voice inside our head that just keeps, we might seem calm on the outside, but on the inside, we're replaying a conversation over and over again, right? We're overthinking. And we're just getting angrier and angrier by the minute on the inside, but yet on the outside, maybe someone wouldn't even know that we're angry with them. And so when that happens, when it's internalized in that way, everything is listening. And so, I can't tell you how many times I've worked with someone who, they've had a pain somewhere and we start doing some tapping and some anger comes up. And once they're really able to work through the anger, really, talk through it, what's really going on, what has really caused the anger for them, what's caused them to feel so angry, the pain just goes away. It is just so, I can't tell you how many times it happened. And even for myself, if I'm in pain and I realize, I've been angry about something, once I work it through, almost always it just sort of, it just glides right through because it's just stuck. It's just stuck energy. It's like the stuck chi. And so if we can express it, our bodies will express for us what we cannot. Right? Our pain and symptoms and all that are just our body's way of speaking to us. And so it's going to express what we cannot express. So once you're able to express those emotions, then it can just sort of move through and you can feel it physically and emotionally, which is what's so great about tapping.
Yeah. So it's a good point that you may think you're just pushing it down, but you can't, it's not going to go away. It's going to come up in one way or another. And Freud had a good quote that I like to refer to. It's just that unexpressed emotions will never die. They're buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. So it could be, just pushing it down so much that someday something little will happen and you'll snap and start screaming and yelling like crazy. Or it could be the physical pain that we're talking about or disease.
Exactly. Good points. That's a great quote.
There was a study actually in 2013 that was done by the Harvard School of Public Health and the University of Rochester. And they showed that people that bottle up their emotions are at increased risk of premature death by 30%. And with risk of being diagnosed from cancer by 70%. So it's really important not to push down our emotions. And I think as women, a lot of us do push down anger. Men do as well. They might have had parents that said, it's not appropriate to show anger. But women in particular, I feel like we've been told to be nice, and to be angry is not nice. And so it's important for us to learn tools that we can express our anger and get that insight and be able to get our needs met and express things in a healthy way. So thank you for joining us to help us with that today.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It's so true. And all that research I've read, maybe different studies, but research does show across the board that when, especially for people who carry a lot of anger and resentment, where they don't have an outlet, they're not able to express themselves in that way. It not every angry person is going to, have cancer or develop a disease, but studies do show that it can lead down that road for sure.
And it certainly can create other emotional issues like anxiety or depression,
Right.
or just issues in your relationship because you're not speaking your truth. So first of all, I want to say thank you to Julianne for joining us from Buenos Aires. It's great to have you here. So if people don't know what emotional freedom technique is or tapping is, can you just give us a quick overview of that first before we get started?
Of course. I always love talking about tapping. So tapping, it looks like this for anybody who doesn't know, who comes on later or watches this. It's an amazing stress management tool that anyone can use at any time. And it is beyond simple. It is effective. It is such a quick way to ease pain and emotional challenges that might come up. And it works for just about everything. So we say try it on everything because it really does work so well. It's a some people call it tapping. Some people call it EFT or emotional freedom techniques. It is a combination of Chinese acupressure, similar to acupuncture, but you don't need the needles, which some people really like. Although I know for Amy, she's used to using the needles, but not everybody loves that. And it is, it actually physiologically helps to settle down your brain when it is feeling worked up and feeling upset or in fight or flight or that sort of thing. And it aligns your energy system and your body all at once. And this practice of tapping, you use your fingertips on particular meridian points, which are connected to different organs and glands in the body. And again, like I said, you can use it for just about anything. You can use it for pain. You can use it for emotional upset. You can use it for cravings. You can use it for, distress of pretty much anything. And what we've seen over and over again is even just taking a few minutes to go through a couple rounds of tapping can reduce stress just so significantly, so quickly. It's really amazing how well it works. And one thing I really love about it is that it is one thing that we can actually do on our own without necessarily needing to see somebody else.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially in times like this, it's perfect.
Exactly.
I think it's also helpful, I like to have a regular meditation practice, but sometimes having a meditation practice where I'm just trying to sit still might not be good for wherever I'm at. And so tapping allows me to do something where I have some activity, and it just helps settle my mind by moving my body.
Yes, and that's so interesting you mentioned that because I feel that way. I do also like to have a meditative practice, and I mix it up. It depends where I'm at in my life and what's going on for me. But I'm someone where the movement is very helpful for me. That almost frenetic energy makes me feel like it just gets me more into that zone where I know some people, you just need to be still and have your eyes closed and breathing, and some people can get into it that way. I did recently, and I'm actually going to record a video just on that particular thing, like tapping into a meditative state. So I'm going to hopefully get that up in the next week or two. But it's funny that you say that because I feel the same way.
Yeah. All right. So where should we start? Can we actually go through a round of tapping so show people what this is?
Totally. So let's, what I'll ask anybody who's watching to do, if you're watching this after the fact, just connect to something that maybe you've been angry about. I know anger, I see many people during a given week as clients. And what I'm seeing, especially with the pandemic and things going on, that anger is definitely on the rise right now, and it might be for stuff that's going on emotionally. This period of time is really sort of triggering people in a lot of ways, for things, even, childhood sort of things, being in this pandemic and being stuck at home and, whatever the situation is. So I see that anger is really on the rise for a lot of people. And so regardless of what you might be feeling angry about, maybe it's a little bit of anger, maybe it's, anger, rage, whatever it is, I want you just to connect with that. Could be something in the last 24 hours. It could be something more significant, could be within the last couple weeks. But connect with that. And what I would ask everyone to do is just take a big, deep breath in. And let it go. And just remember, this is your time. Just taking a couple minutes to tune into your own emotions, your own feelings, so that you can feel calmer and more relaxed and move on with your day. And I'm going to tap. I'm going to ask Amy to tap along with me. And you can be my echo, my voice, right? So just follow along with me. Okay, great. So when you're ready, we're just going to tap on the side of the hand on this point and just repeat after me. Even though I'm so angry,
even though I'm so angry,
but I'm having a hard time expressing it,
but I'm having a hard time expressing it,
I accept myself.
I accept myself.
And I'm open to feeling safe.
And I'm open to feeling safe.
Even though I'm really feeling angry.
Even though I'm really feeling angry.
Fuming inside.
Fuming inside.
I might be boiling with rage.
I might be boiling with rage.
I'm just acknowledging how I feel.
I'm just acknowledging how I feel.
And I'm open to letting it go.
And I'm open to letting it go.
Even though I'm so angry.
Even though I'm so angry.
But I'm afraid to express it.
But I'm afraid to express it.
For fear that I won't be taken seriously.
For fear that I won't be taken seriously.
I'll be judged for it.
I'll be judged for it.
Or rejected because of it.
Or rejected because of it.
I accept how I feel.
I accept how I feel.
And I'm open to forgiving the circumstances.
And I'm open to forgiving the circumstances.
That made me feel this way.
That made me feel this way.
And we're just going to tap through the points. So follow along with me and tapping on the top of the head. I'm really angry right now.
I'm really angry right now.
And over the eyebrow. It's really hard for me to express it.
It's really hard for me to express it.
And the side of your eye. It doesn't feel safe.
It doesn't feel safe.
And under your eye. I might have learned a long time ago.
I might have learned a long time ago.
And under your nose. It's not safe to express my emotions.
It's not safe to express my emotions.
And on your chin, especially anger.
Especially anger.
And the collarbone point on either side. Someone will be mad at me.
Someone will be mad at me.
And you're going to tap under your arm, just right over there. I hate conflict.
I hate conflict.
And back up at the top of your head. But I'm really angry right now.
But I'm really angry right now.
And over your eyebrow. This is really a dilemma for me.
This is really a dilemma for me.
And the side of your eye. I might want to yell and scream.
I might want to yell and scream.
And under your eye. And let someone else know how I feel.
And let someone else know how I feel.
And under your nose. But it's too risky.
But it's too risky.
And on your chin, I just stuff it down.
I just stuff it down.
And the collarbone. I don't want to fight about it.
I don't want to fight about it.
And under your arm. I tend to be passive aggressive about it.
I tend to be passive aggressive about it.
And the top of your head. Maybe I ignore them.
Maybe I ignore them.
And over your eyebrow. Avoid them.
Or avoid them.
And the side of your eye. Give them the cold shoulder.
Give them the cold shoulder.
And under your eye. I'm fine.
I'm fine.
That's a good one. And under your nose. But I'm really stewing about this.
But I'm really stewing about this.
And on your chin. I can feel it in my body.
I can feel it in my body.
And the collarbone. It's so hard for me to let them know how I feel.
It's so hard for me to let them know how I feel.
And under your arm. But I'm justified in feeling this way.
But I'm justified in feeling this way.
And the top of the head. Why is it so hard to tell them how I feel?
Why is it so hard to tell them how I feel?
And over your eyebrow. It's really hard for me to speak up and own my power.
It's really hard for me to speak up and own my power.
And the side of your eye. Even if I think I'm right.
Even if I think I'm right.
And under your eye. I just can't risk them being mad at me.
I just can't risk them being mad at me.
And under your nose. And it might feel like I have more power if I'm mad.
And it might feel like I have more power if I'm mad.
And on your chin, I have the upper hand.
I have the upper hand.
And the collarbone. But do I really?
But do I really?
And under your arm, they don't even know I'm mad.
They don't even know I'm mad.
And the top of your head. So much wasted energy.
So much wasted energy.
And over your eyebrow. In my mind and in my body.
In my mind and in my body.
On the side of your eye. I'm actually so tired of thinking about this.
I'm actually so tired of thinking about this.
And under your nose, stewing about it.
Stewing about it.
And under your nose. I don't want to carry this burden anymore.
I don't want to carry this burden anymore.
And on your chin, it's affecting me and maybe my relationship with somebody else.
It's affecting me and maybe my relationship with somebody else.
And the collarbone. Maybe it's time for a change.
Maybe it's time for a change.
And under your arm to either let it go.
To either let it go.
And the top of your head, or own my power and confront somebody.
Or own my power and confront somebody.
And over your eyebrow. I'm open to relaxing about this.
I'm open to relaxing about this.
And the side of your eye. I'm choosing to own my power.
And choosing to own my power.
And under your eye. This pent-up anger.
This pent-up anger.
And under your nose is like drinking the proverbial poison.
Is like drinking the proverbial poison.
And on your chin. And hoping someone else gets hurt.
And hoping someone else gets hurt.
And the collarbone. I'm stepping into myself.
I'm stepping into myself.
And under your arm. Anger is just an emotion.
Anger is just an emotion.
And the top of your head. It might feel scary.
It might feel scary.
And over your eyebrow. It's okay to be angry.
It's okay to be angry.
And the side of your eye. It's safe to be angry.
It's safe to be angry.
And under your eye. It's also safe to let it go.
It's also safe to let it go.
And under your nose. Releasing it from my body.
Releasing it from my body.
And on your chin. Moving on.
Moving on.
And the collarbone. I deserve it.
I deserve it.
And under your arm. Feeling calmer and more relaxed.
Feeling calmer and more relaxed.
And tap your wrists together and say peace.
Peace.
Good. Take a big deep breath in. And just let it go. And see how that feels for you.
Great. I could feel the tightness in my upper back before, like where I hold that.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing? It just moves the end. I mean, even if you weren't even angry before you started doing this, right? I mean, you might have been just like, okay, I'm going to follow along. But the act of tapping is really just, it sends a message to the amygdala in your brain saying that you're safe, and it's safe to feel calm, and it's safe to feel relaxed. And, it feels good to feel good. So this is a great practice just to be able to do that.
So if you joined us late, if you have any questions, go ahead and put those in comments. I know when I first started doing tapping, one of my questions was like, do I need to do both sides, Julie?
Right. Great question. You don't have to do both sides. That's initially how it's been taught. And I have taught it that way myself, like this. You can do it with both sides. But you can do one side, or you can do the other side. Or some people like to go like this and just sort of switch off. So, it's really just the act of tapping. It doesn't really matter if it's one side, the other side. You have meridians down both sides, as you know. And so it doesn't really matter. You are still stimulating the points, and that's all that really does matter. It's the intention of going through it and tapping on it. Some people like to feel more balanced with it, so they like to do two hands. But I've been using one hand for myself and even along with clients for years already. But whatever someone's comfortable with is what they should do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how hard should I be tapping? It's tapping.
Very gentle. Right. Right. You don't want to bruise yourself. You don't want to hurt yourself. The point of this is to feel calm and relaxed. And so it's just a very gentle tapping. You can take 3 fingers from one of your hands. You can tap on either side when you're tapping on the side of the hand. And even when you go to these points, it's just a really, really gentle tapping. For some people who might be more sensitive, sometimes, you can even rub the points. You can rub them and stimulate them like this if you don't feel like actually going through and tapping like this. And the other thing I want to mention around tapping and the logistics of that, some people can't raise their arm if they have like a shoulder issue or a neck issue or something like that. And so people don't avoid tapping because you're going to be in pain. And so if you can only tap on a certain, number of points, if you can only, make 1 point even tapping this way is going to be better than not tapping at all. So it'll still work for you, even if you don't get through all, 8 or 10 points, whatever it is. Do what works for you, modify it.
And I'm sure that you could imagine, if you're not able to reach up here, just imagine yourself doing it. You still get benefits. You're still moving that energy up there, even if you're not physically tapping.
Totally. And I'm glad you bring that up. One of the things, we might have talked about this the last time we talked, I don't remember, but if you wake up in the middle of the night, especially women who are perimenopausal, who are up in the middle of the night, can't sleep, I know I have been there myself, is that you can actually close your eyes and just, because some people will say that the tapping stimulates them. And so you can actually just close your eyes and imagine yourself tapping on these points, just as you said right now, because that will still, it's just the energy, right? You're just tuning into the energy in your body, and it will work just as well, even just by focusing. And you can even, imagine switching from here to here to here to here. Still works just as well.
And Julianne just said that she taps the opposite side for under the arm. It seems less awkward. And yeah, it did feel awkward trying to do this side right now.
Yes, you could totally do, right. So you could do this on the same side. You can reach over to the other side like that. Or some people, you can cross over and do it that way. You could, again, it's all just based on what feels right for you.
Yeah. So Julianne,
that's not doing it.
Yeah. So there are a lot of different symptoms people can have in perimenopause. You mentioned sleep issues. Some people have problems with weight gain or cravings, or they might have hot flashes that are brought on by smoking cigarettes or maybe drinking a lot of things with caffeine, and they might want to break some of those habits. So I just wanted to point out you have a huge YouTube library, and there's videos. We already did a video about sleep. So there's videos about using tapping for sleep, for addressing cravings, for helping with addictions. There's a myriad of resources that are out there that people will be able to use.
Yes, even like premenstrual syndrome, PMS symptoms, if those are still coming up for people. The hot flashes, that one is one I'm going to get around to and make a tapping video for that too, because tapping can actually work really well for hot flashes also.
Okay, great. I'm sure a lot of people will be looking for that one.
Yeah. It's good. It's good to use. It really is. It's just great for everything. So thank you for having me on and helping me to share it with whoever wants to learn about it.
Yeah, I will put the YouTube channel in the comments so people can find your YouTube channel more easily. But if you search YouTube and just type in Julie Schiffman, you'll find the YouTube channel.
Yes.
And this video will be downloaded to YouTube eventually on my channel. So this whole series will go on pandemic sleep tips. No, that was the previous one. You can go to pandemic sleep tips and find Julie from that. But this series will be perimenopausal in a pandemic.com. And if you type that in, you got to give me some time, but I will have this video downloaded and other videos from the sessions that we'll be having over the next 2 weeks. Are there any other questions for Julie? Or Julie, any frequently asked questions that we missed that usually come up?
No, I think we covered, the only other thing I would probably mention is people always say, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say when tapping. How do you know what words to use? And so the only other thing I would say about that is that it takes practice. You always want to start with what the problem is. And when I say problem, it's really what the truth is. It's the truth of what you're feeling. It's the truth of what's going on in your mind, what's going on in your body, and just telling the truth about that. And so it sounds like the negative because that's what the problem is. And so you start with that, and then at some point you neutralize it, and then you're able to sort of turn it around to the positive stuff. And so what I recommend for people is that you can even write down ahead of time before you start doing tapping on your own, what's the problem you want to work on and how do you want to feel about it afterwards? And so sometimes it's more intricate, obviously. Sometimes we get into memories, we get into other things. This is a very basic tapping script. And the more specific people can be with their particular problem or challenge, the better it will be for them to make major movement on, from where they're starting from to the end. But tapping only works if you do it. So I would say, to just start the process, and the more you get to know it and do it, it'll just sort of fall into place for you.
And I know some people are resistant to talking about what they consider the issue because they feel like that's reinforcing it. But really, you have to accept where you're at before you can change. Because if you're trying to pretend like you don't feel a way that you feel or something isn't happening, that resistance actually feeds it as well. So it's important to accept current state before you try to move forward.
That's exactly right. Because otherwise you go back to what we talked about before, which is internalizing things and denying them and disconnecting from them, right? And then it just continues to ruminate in your mind. So if you can get it out this way with tapping, or if there are other modalities, then you will find it once you accept it. And that's why at the beginning of this tapping, when we say, even though I'm really angry, I accept myself or I accept these feelings, that's exactly what we're doing. We're accepting where we are so that we can move forward with it instead of denying it. Yeah.
And if this isn't working for you for some reason, in the pandemic sleep tips, we had a discussion with Beth Lynch, who does Eden Energy Method work. And she had some other tips of different ways that you can get rid of anger. So I find, like tapping is amazing, acupuncture is amazing, but there's never one thing that works for me 100% all the time. And so it's good to have a bunch of tools in your toolkit that you can try different things if a certain day one thing isn't working for you.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
So let me give people a quick heads up about what's coming up over the next 2 weeks. So tomorrow I have Sonia Tully is joining us. If you know Sonia Choquette, who's an intuitive teacher, Sonia Tully is her daughter, and herself a very well-trained intuitive teacher and guide. So she'll be talking to us about developing your intuition, because that's one of those positives of perimenopause. So during the perimenopausal period, there's changes that happen in your brain that actually enhance your intuitive skills. So let's take advantage of those and do some practice to learn how we can develop those even further. So she'll be joining me tomorrow. We also have sessions this week about reframing and managing your hot flashes. So first, want to frame how you're looking at those, because there can be some positives. And Beth Lynch, who I just mentioned, will be teaching us Eden Energy Method techniques that we can use for hot flashes. So it'll give you something to use in the interim until Julie gets her hot flashes tapping video out there. And then you'll have two tools to use for that. And then we'll also be talking about body positivity this week with change instigator Malik Turley, who is the owner and founder of Hip Circle Empowerment Center. And then next week we have things where we're going to talk about uncovering your inner queen, managing joint pain, finding your voice and speaking your truth, meditation, and movement, all things that can help you. And then I'm working on trying to get some people to talk about pelvic health and sexuality, and a gynecologist or a physician to talk about HRTs and when it's good to use hormone replacement therapy. So if there are other topics that I haven't mentioned that you really want to make sure are covered, please let me know so that I can see if we can find an expert to come and join us and talk about those. But we have a lot coming up. And please follow Northshore Acupuncture Center on Facebook. It'll make it easier to find the Facebook Lives when we go live. And like I said, these will all get downloaded to perimenopausalinapandemic.com. So you can find those there after the fact or use them as a tool. If you are having problems with anger and you want to go back to this is a great way to get back to it, is YouTube. All right, Julie, thank you very much for joining me again today. It's always a pleasure. And we really appreciate all the work you do, just sharing tapping more broadly. And how can people follow you besides YouTube?
They can follow me on Instagram at Julie Schiffman _tap into life. They can follow me on Facebook, Julie Schiffman EFT. And my website is julieschiffman.com.
All right.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always fun to talk to you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks.